Spooky Spoo, how you do? Today we are reviewing the manga series Mieruko-chan. I was actually pleasantly surprised when I looked in the comments and saw people recommending that I review this manga series, because I had had this on my wish list for a while and just never got around to reading it till recently. Now, part of the reason I assume people requested that I look this series over is because the anime is coming out this month, or well, it already came out, but you know, right now I think there's only one episode available to watch, and of course I will be waiting until those episodes stack up a bit and then binge them all. But I'm sure that that anime series is going to for sure be a next Halloween classic anime to watch. Now, this is a horror comedy, and I must say they do a very good job at balancing out horror and comedy. The writer has this fantastic way of building up this feeling of suspense like an actual horror comic or horror series would actually do, and then briefly brushing it off with some light comedy. It's quite an interesting mixture, and I think they really do a great job of it. But you know, some of you might be wondering, before I get into that, I should be talking about what the plot is. So this young girl all of a sudden can now see ghosts and demons, and there is no real explanation as to why, but she deals with this sudden revelation that she can see these creatures by pretending that she can't see them and trying her best to ignore them, despite the fact that she is absolutely terrified upon seeing them, especially since all of the ghosts that she sees in the series tend to be demonic creatures from hell. I mean, they are just absolutely horrifying looking. It's very rare that she sees like an actual good spirit who like looks pleasant and normal. They're all very messed up creatures. Very good inspiration if you wanted to design a monster for another comic project. Now, the way this manga series begins, it feels like a series of skits. Like it was meant to be more of a webcomic or one-off jokes where she constantly has these experiences of seeing these horrible creatures and trying to ignore them while normally going through life. But as you do get further into the series, they start to get a little bit more serious. Characters that were obviously meant to be one-off jokes before then come back, and then they actually have a part to play. And I do like the serious route that they go with this series, because I do think that it's interesting what they've set up in having these like super scary demonic creatures just kind of roaming around, not really for the most part hurting people. Maybe, you know, they attach to someone and they curse them somehow, but for the most part, just roaming around miserable, only really paying attention to you if you pay attention to them, which is the whole point of her trying her best to ignore them. But as the series goes on, she realizes that they do have some effect over real people who get hurt by these demonic spirits. And rather than always ignoring them, chooses to, in some cases, be brave in order to relieve some of these evil spirits from people. Kind of like how a psychic medium would do, which is also a factor that plays into the series. In some ways, it kind of reminds me of a modern Inuyasha, or maybe a better example would be like a version of Blue Exorcist, but without the Exorcist Academy. And I am excited to see where they're taking this series in the future. I hope they do keep continuing it. But yeah, like I said, I would not be the least bit surprised if the writer themselves were a bigger fan of horror than they are comedy, because the horror is like genuinely pretty well written and well done suspense-wise. All the monsters really do look terrifying, and then this contrasts with that very light comedy of, oh, I didn't see anything. And all of this is presented in what feels like skits at first. There's, of course, you know, some fan service at the beginning. I would even argue that it's maybe more aggressive at the beginning, whereas once the plot gets more serious, there's a lot less fan service. And maybe that was just because they were trying to sell people on the series. Maybe it's also because fan service and horror go very well together. I think if you're a fan of horror, you'd probably enjoy the series, but also if you're not a fan of horror, I think that the light comedy keeps this series from being too terrifying. You probably already know if you've ever heard me talk about this, but I'm actually not a huge horror fan myself, just because I find horror scares to be kind of cheap in some scenarios, and also I get very squeamish when it comes to certain things. but I did really enjoy this series while I was reading it. It kept up like this suspense and of course the psychological horror of trying to keep calm while seeing all of these terrifying things, but it never really crossed a line to where I was like, okay, that's too scary. And really, the more I get into the series, the more I enjoy it and the more I want to see where it goes. Because I am actually pretty interested in this universe that they built up. I want to know why every single ghost here looks like some demonic creature from hell. I want to see what the main character decides to do with her ability to see them. And if she does try to pursue a career as a psychic or a medium trying to help these spirits pass on. I want to know what the heck the deal with her friend is, why she has this big aura that attracts these spirits. They've definitely built up a pretty interesting series here, and I think most people would enjoy it. So if you are looking for some Halloween spooky reading or a new series to enjoy for the October season, definitely check out this series, check out the anime, let me know how the anime is, and don't let the fan service scare you off, because like I said, it really does dim down a lot after the first section. If you yourself have already read this series or are currently watching the anime, what do you think about it? Leave your own thoughts down below in the comments section. Like the video if you did enjoy my brief review and would like to see more videos from me or more recommendations. Thanks for watching, everyone. I'll see you next time. Till then, bye!